Hello, I'm Nora, and welcome back to Novels with Nora. You've read the title, you know what we're here for. Another quarter has come to a close, so it is time for my third quarterly wrap-up, which is crazy. There's only 3 months left in the year. But I did actually read a lot in September, so I have a lot to talk to you about that I have not talked to you about yet, because a lot of times in my quarterly wrap-ups it's like, well, I'm going to talk about like the last month in the quarter's books, but you've already heard me talk about most of them, so like doesn't really matter. Where this month there's only 2 of the 11 things that I read this month that you haven't already heard about, so I have a lot to talk to you about. And because of that, the 2 things that you have already seen me talk about, because they had a whole vlog dedicated to them, I'm just going to say here's what I read, here's the star rating, and move on to all of the other things, because I have a lot to talk about today and a lot to get through. So let's just get right into it. I started September off right by reading finally my arc of Alansa Wide by Erin A. Craig, and I was so excited to get approved for this arc because Erin A. Craig is one of my favorite authors. I still haven't found a 5-star from her, but like everything that I've read from her has been up like 4 stars and above, and I really enjoy her writing, and Alansa Wide was no different. This is her first foray into the adult sphere, and it was really good. However, I will say there wasn't a whole lot in here that like really differentiated between like her YA and adult novels, and so I'm really not sure why this is the one that they decided to make adult. Like, it really felt just kind of like an amped up version of Small Favors, which is why I got interested into it in the first place, because I was like, oh, that sounds a lot like Small Favors, which is my favorite thing that she's written. And then it felt very similar to Small Favors, different in like some very key ways, but very similar to the point that it was like, I'm not really sure why we're doing this. Like, I had a good time with it. I really enjoyed it. It has Erin A. Craig's name all over it. It was like, the writing was beautiful, exactly what you'd expect from an Erin A. Craig novel. But the whole time I was like, this does not feel like an adult novel. Like, I think the main character is like in her like mid to late 20s, and she does not feel like it. Like, she could be 16, 17 easily, no problems. I think it's just what happens with her story later in the novel. It made more sense for her to be older, so she was like more comfortable being out on her own and doing the things she was doing. So like in that way, it kind of made sense, but it didn't feel adult. And so I enjoyed it. It was 4 stars, but again, really enjoy Erin A. Craig. Have not yet found a 5-star from her, so I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that whatever she comes up with next is going to be the one, but this unfortunately was not the one. Not bad, but not yet great. And then from the library, I read A Treachery of Swans, and this was one of my anticipated releases of the year, and my hold finally came in, so I read it, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I will say, it took me 2 tries to get into it, because the first time, I got like 20-ish pages in, and was like, there's so many French words, I don't know the French pronunciation, I don't have an audiobook, like, and then when I did get the audiobook, it was like heavily French, and I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now, and I just like wasn't really like into it. But then I went back to it, didn't reread those first 20 pages, just like picked up from where I left off. Absolutely loved it. This is my first 5-star of the month, and only my second book of the month too, which was super exciting, and I just ate this up. It was so fun. This is a sapphic Swan Lake retelling. I did not tell you anything about what Alansa Wide is about. Oh well, moving on. This was a sapphic Swan Lake retelling, and it was magical and historical and dark and like gothic, but it was just really fun and like nothing I've read before, and I'm really looking forward to picking up more from this author in the future, because loved the writing, loved the characters, had a very good time with this, and it was a very surprising 5-star for me. Then I read Ring Shout, and I had checked this out from the library for my brother because he'd really been wanting to read it, and then it was an option of something I could read for one of my assignments for school, and I ended up going with something else just because I read it before I got to this, and I enjoy this. It's a novella, and I just feel like this is one that you have to read for yourself to like understand what's happening and then know if it's for you or not, because like even while I was reading it I was like, I don't know if I'm enjoying this or not. Like, I'm gonna keep reading, but like I couldn't tell if I was having a good time or if I wasn't enjoying it. Like, it was a very interesting experience. It's very much cosmic horror, which this was my first foray into that, and it's a crazy way to start. I had a fun time with it. Really, what I was left wondering when I finished it was I was very curious as to what led the male author to write all female characters, and they were written very well. There was no like misogyny or sexism roped in there outside of like the historical context. But I just, like, it was done really well. I'm just very curious as to why that was the artistic choice taken. I would just, like, love to, like, listen to or read an interview with the author. This ended up being 3.5 stars for me because I enjoyed it. It was just kind of, like, I'm just not sure why. Like, it has a lot of really good messaging, and like especially being in the historical like South, the Ku Klux Klan is like the main big bad in here, and so like it had a lot to say. I just was kind of left being like, why is this the way we meant to say it? Like, more just like genuine curiosity than critique. So would love to read or listen to some author interviews for this, because I still am left with a lot of questions specifically for the author, not about the novel itself, really, if that makes any sense. Then after that, I picked up something that I had originally planned to read in my Books and Lala reading vlog last month, but ended up just not getting to because there were other things that I was more excited about at the time, and that is Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. And this was really interesting because it is a fictional biography that this woman is writing about her late wife, who was this like iconoclastic artist just who went by the name of X. And so what happened in the story is that there was a different author who published like a biography of this artist, and it just like got a lot of things wrong and like didn't really do a very good job. And so X's wife was like, wife and widow was like, I'm gonna set the record straight. And then in the process of writing it, she realizes that she's doing it more for herself than she is to prove the other guy wrong. And she just learns a lot about her wife, and we're learning a lot about her. And it's just like, it's a weird mix of like historical and fictional, because it is like, a lot of things are historical and accurate, but then it has this like weird twist of like the Southern territories and like all of this history that's like fully made up. And it was very interesting. I gave this one 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first like half, and then after that I was like, I feel like we're doing too much. Like it's just going on far too long, and it was just like too much. But the first half I really was very invested and really enjoyed, and I really liked reading about this like fictionalized history that she was creating, and I had a very good time with it. And it was very weird, and I would be willing to read other things from this author because I enjoyed the writing of it so much. It was just very weird and definitely not for everyone, but because I'm such a character-driven reader, I really did enjoy just like learning about these characters' lives and like their lives together and their lives before they met each other. I had a good time with it. It's just, again, that last half I was like, now we're just like dragging it on. It's simply too much, but I did enjoy it and did give it 4 stars. Next are the 2 things that you would have already seen me talk about if you've watched my previous videos, and those are the 2 things that I read for my Reader on Haul video, and that is Defy the Stars and Last of the Talons. And Defy the Stars was a 4.5. Enjoyed it. I'm curious to continue on with the series, but the longer I get away from it, the less I'm interested in continuing the series. And similarly, Last of the Talons, which was a 3-star for me, it just tried to do simply too much, and I enjoyed it. I don't think I'll be continuing on, so this one I'm going to be unhauling, but Defy the Stars I will be keeping. I told you we'd go through those quickly. And then 2 other things that you've already seen me talk about is Halloween Party by Agatha Christie, that I did not enjoy because I wanted it to be Halloween themed, and it wasn't, and it just like was not at all. Like the first chapter takes place at Halloween Party and then nothing else from there on. And I gave this one 2 stars. And then also in that same vlog, I read Ladies in Hating as an arc. Really enjoyed it, had a very good time, but like upon writing my review for it, I kind of like lowered my rating because I realized I had a lot more problems with it than I originally realized, just because I was caught up in like the fun giddiness of it. So the further away I got from like my emotions tied to it, the more I was like, no, like there definitely are some issues here. And so this one ended up getting 3.5 stars from me, which is still like a really good rating. It just, I feel like when I was talking about it in that vlog, I was just like so much more excited about it than I am now, which now it's like I've read it, I've moved on, which isn't a bad thing, but it is what happened, and so my enjoyment of it has really dwindled. The next 2 things I read in September are graphic novels that I read for one of my grad school classes, and the first one is Ash's Cabin, and I had a good time with this. I really enjoyed the art style and what was going on, but it's like we spent a decent amount of time in the build-up, and then like the majority of the story in like the actual plot, I guess you could say, and then not enough time in like the closure of the story. So then the time jump from like what was actually happening, like the main event, to then like the closure of it, far too jumpy, was not seamless in the slightest, and left me just with so many questions, like, and like logistical things that I was like, I don't know about this. I am not rating most of the things that I'm reading for that course because I'm not picking them up of my own will and like something that I'm genuinely interested in picking them up because I kind of have to. So I'm not giving them ratings. And I don't typically rate graphic novels anyway, just because I feel like it's just harder for me, so I just don't do it. But I did enjoy this. I had a fun time reading it. There was a dog in it, and as soon as I thought that there was a dog, I was like, please don't let this dog get hurt. The dog gets hurt. The dog ends up being okay, but he does get hurt, and I did not like that. And then after that, I read Visitations by Corey Egbert, and this was a very interesting graphic novel because it was like fictionalized nonfiction. I'm not really sure what that would be called, but like it's the story of like what happened to him in his life, but he fictionalizes it a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting and a bit more paranormal. And I enjoyed this. It had a limited color palette that worked really well for the story, and so I really enjoyed the art style, and I enjoyed the story as well. It was one of those things where it's like it really kept me turning the page, and I wanted to know what was going to happen because what happens in here is crazy, and like this actually happened to him. And so there was like a little author's note at the end that like talked through the more like accurate points of it, and I enjoyed it. It was very interesting, and I'm glad to have read it, but I didn't love it, you know? So those are the 2 graphic novels that I read. And then just recently I finished The Earth, My Butt, and Other Big Round Things, also for that class, so I also don't have a rating for this one. And this was fun. This came out in, I believe, 2005, and so it was definitely older, but the author did a very good job of making it timeless, where like there was no social media mentioned, and there wasn't any like software or anything mentioned that would really date it. Like she emails with her friend, but like the emails could be read as text the way that they were formatted in the novel, which was really nice, and nothing in it was very like, it didn't feel dated, which was really nice and like really like holds true, which is like one of the things you're reading it to see. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I enjoyed the story. I had a good time with it. However, the whole point of this novel is about Virginia, who is in this family where she feels very out of place because her family is all like super successful, tall, skinny, and just like really like go get 'em attitudes, and she is not that. She is bigger. She doesn't really feel like she has her thing. She isn't as athletic as the rest of the family. She doesn't have the same interests as them. And so the whole like plot of the novel is, well, majority of the plot is her feeling out of place in her own body and then like starving herself and like trying to get skinny to like gain her family's approval. And then also there's a side plot of her brother committing date rape, and then that comes into play in a way that I was not anticipating, and I was enjoying it. And I was like, I just know that like little girls out there, or like anyone who is bigger and existing in a bigger body, could have this and like see that it's going to be okay, and that like starving yourself and doing all those things is not the way to go. And I was like, this is such a great representation. And then come to find out the author herself has never existed in a larger body and is in fact like a very skinny woman. And I was like, that just feels a little off. Like, it's still a good novel and it still stands, but it just made me feel a little bit icky about it. Cause like, what is she doing writing that? Again, it was done well. It was just very interesting. And I did enjoy it. I'm glad, another thing that I'm glad to have read. And just like bad thing after bad thing kept happening to that girl. I was like updating my family as I was reading it, and I was like, our girl Virginia is just going through it like over and over. Bad things just kept happening. And I know there's a sequel that came out. Not gonna read it. No interest. So those are all the things that I read this month. Quite a few. There were 11 books that I read, and then one sneaky little novella that I read, which was rejected by the alpha. I was really in the mood for a werewolf romance where the female main character is also a shifter of some type. The thing is, I like a werewolf romance, okay? Sue me, I do. But I don't like when the woman is like this hapless human who knows nothing about the like world of shifters or anything, and then all of a sudden this like big burly werewolf man mates with her and she's like, oh, I don't know. I don't want that. And so I picked this one up because it was like one of the only ones I could find where the woman was also a shifter. Granted, she's a deer shifter and her mate is like a wolf shifter, hence why she gets rejected. So it did kind of what I was looking for, just like not all the way. So if you have recommendations for werewolf romances where the woman is also a shifter of some type, or at least has knowledge of like that werewolves exist, I would love to know that, because that's what I was looking for. And this was as close as I could get. And I'm not counting it in like my page count or like how many books I read this month, because it was like 86 pages and I just read it for fun. And the thing is, it kind of did, like it was kind of a good book. There were just like a lot of sex scenes that were like not well written. I skimmed over all of those because I just kind of wanted like the plot of this woman finding her mate and like not being like, oh my god, werewolves are real. So that's that. So if you're looking for that, give this one a try. There are a lot of sex scenes. It's mostly like all of what those 86 pages are, but it wasn't bad. Anyway, those are all the 11 books that I read this month. So like I said, I read 11 books in September, which was a total of 3,726 pages. And that is both the most amount of books I've read in a month and the most pages I've read in a month. So I'm very happy with that. And then of those 11, there were 1 5-star, 1 4.5 star, 3 4 stars, 1 3.5 star, 1 3 star, 1 2 star, which, you know, the fact that I only had 1 5-star, like, it's fine. I read a lot, and a lot of what I was reading were things that, like, I wasn't picking up for me. And I'm going to do a vlog soon where I'm showing, like, the stuff that I'm reading for that class, and then what the class is and why I'm reading all of those things, because a lot of my reading in the next, like, for the rest of the year, really, is going to be dedicated to that class, because I have to read 22 books for that class. So a lot of my reading time is dedicated to that. So I feel like it would make sense for me to make a vlog to just kind of talk about what's going on there. But September was a good reading month for me. I found a 5-star, really enjoyed it. A new author for me to read from, read a new Erin A. Craig novel. I'm still waiting for a 5-star from her, and I would really like it to come soon, but we'll see. But that is all that I have to share with you for September. So now let's go into my actual like quarterly wrap up, because I have quite a few things to share. So like always, I have my trusty computer here to go over all the little pie charts I made. So starting with my owned versus unowned books, I am disappointed in this, but not surprised, where I read 13 unowned books and 11 owned. I'm glad I'm still reading owned books, and like, I feel like that's a pretty good proportion there. And I know going forward, this number is going to stay like this, because all of the books that I'm reading for my classes, I'm reading from the library, because I'm not buying them just to read them for this class, especially when they're not things that I would usually pick up for myself. So a lot of library books this month, which I love. I love using my library, and I'm also starting to realize that the number of unread books on my shelves is just like dwindling. And so like pretty much all of the books that you see on my shelves are things that I've already read. So I'm not mad at this, because that means that I'm really getting through the stuff that I have, and I don't have that many left to read. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still quite a few, and I still have my whole like reader on haul challenge going, but like obviously the more I read from my shelves, the less there are. And like these are all the books that I own. Like I don't own that many. Like I'm not one of those YouTubers who has like a whole like library. The dream, but that's just not the reality for me. And I'm especially because I'm not buying any books right now. So I'm not mad at this, because it means that I'm not getting through these too fast, you know? And then we have my breakdown of all of my ratings. So for this quarter, which was July, August, and September, I had 5 5 stars, which is exciting, 3 4.5 stars, 5 4 stars, 5 3.5 stars, and this is where it starts to get into the ratings that I don't like having as much. 2 3 stars, 1 2 star, and then 3 unrated, which are the things that I'm reading for that class. So this is very standard for me. I'm glad I'm still reading a lot of 5 stars. I just feel like, especially with all the things I'm reading for that class, that number is going to start to go down because I'm just not reading things that, like, again, these are not things that I'm picking up because I want to pick them up. I'm picking them up because I'm required to for this course. So not to say that a 5 star won't crop up in there every now and again, but I feel like they're going to become few and far between, especially because all of my reading time is being dedicated to that. So it's just harder for me to then pick up things that I want to read. Moving on, my genre breakdown was very different this quarter. I only had 4 fantasy novels, which shocking. And then, because that's usually like my most read genre, like when people ask what I like to read, I think I said this last quarter too, I'm like sci-fi fantasy, like that's what I read. But this month, my top genre was horror at 9, and I think this really had to do with, I did a whole like Summerween reading vlog where I read mostly horror, and then also my Books and Lala reading vlog where I read a lot of horror because that's what she reads, so that's what I was reading because of her recommendations. So this makes sense. It's just very interesting because horror is a thing that I've only really started reading like this year and like the second half of this year really. So seeing it like just like the number of how many I'm reading just get higher and higher each month is very interesting. And I'm curious to see if that's something that I will like keep up with or if it's just like a result of this channel. Very interesting. I'm keeping an eye on this. And then I read one romance, which was Ladies in Hating, which I did have a good time with. I feel like they're always just like fun little palette cleansers for me with all the fantasy and horror that I'm reading. Then I had 3 thriller mystery, and I don't take these like genre breakdowns super seriously outside of like the fantasy horror because a lot of times it's just like I'm reading a lot of things that like aren't easily classified into just one genre. So I know quite a few, I think 2 of the 3 things in here just kind of got put in here because they don't really belong anywhere else. Not that they really belong here either, but it's just like the easiest place to put them, so that's where they are. And then I had 1 nonfiction, which was that graphic novel because that's just like the closest place to put it. 2 sci-fi and 4 contemporary, which again, this is quite typical for me outside of the fantasy and horror swap, which again, keeping my eye on because I'm very interested to see if that'll continue. So looking now at the format of the books that I read this past quarter, very standard for me. I read 14 things physically and with the audiobook, which is immersion reading, which is my favorite way to read. This will always be the highest in my pie charts. And then next was 5 ebooks, which I think will just continue to get higher as I'm reading more arcs. Love doing that. Thank you for the opportunity, publishers. And then also the things that I'm reading for this course, I'm usually reading through Libby as ebooks, so that's why that one's getting higher. And then 3 things physically and 2 things just audio, which was fun. And this was Halloween Party, boo, didn't like it. And then The Princess and the Scoundrel, which is a Star Wars audiobook. I love reading the Star Wars audiobooks audibly because they're just so much fun. They have like sound effects, fantastic time. But yeah, this is very standard for me. I don't expect this to really change much. Physical and audio is always going to be my top slice of the pie because it is my favorite way to read. And then the final pie chart I have to share with you is the age ratings of what I've been reading. And this is not surprising. I read 12 things in the adult category, 9 things in YA, and 3 in new adult. And I think that that's part of the reason why I'm not reading as much from my shelves is because I'm really into reading like adult novels right now, and a lot of the stuff that I own is YA, so I'm just reading a lot more from the library. Not to say that I don't still read YA and enjoy it, I really do. It's just, especially because a lot of the YA that I'm reading right now is for my class, and it's things that I'm not enjoying as much, then it makes me want to just read adult things in my own time. And then the 3 new adult things, I really just use the new adult category as like a catch-all bucket for books that like don't really fit in either. Like they could go either, but they don't feel right in either, so I put them in new adult. I'm especially thinking of We Ride Upon Sticks because in this one the characters are in high school, but it doesn't read YA, so I put it in new adult. So I really just use it as a catch-all. Like they're not like technically categorized as new adult, that's just where I feel right putting them. So those are all of the pie charts I have to share with you. I am having such a great reading year, reading month, reading quarter, everything. For this quarter in total, I read 24 books, which was a total of 7,974 pages, which is the second highest so far. I would say overall, quarter going great, month going great, year going great. My classes are starting to get a little bit heftier with their course load, so I feel like I'll be reading less for myself, and like really all of my time will be dedicated to reading for that course. So expect to see a lot of older YA books in my wrap up soon and in my vlogs. But that leads me to talking about my reading challenges I've set for myself for this year. And let me just say, I am not doing a very good job. I'm at the point in the year where I've completed so many of the different challenges and different prompts that truly, in order to complete the last ones that I have remaining, I have to like specifically seek out books for those prompts and like dedicate time to reading them, which is just not what I'm doing right now and not what I have time to do. So I do plan on doing it. I'm really hopeful that I can complete at least Buzzwordathon and the alphabet challenge. I have planned to complete both of those. The r/fantasy bingo board, I know that one goes into next year, but like I'm making no progress on it right now. I'm reading my current read right now, which is one thing for that course, will count for one of the prompts. So we'll be making progress there, but because those things, also those prompts are just very specific, at this point in the year, if I want to complete more things in these challenges, I have to like specifically seek out books to do that, and I don't have the time for it right now, so I've not read anything more for these challenges. My alphabet challenge, Buzzwordathon, you've already seen. I'm keeping up with that, doing a great job with it, and then the r/fantasy bingo board, I've made no progress. And I have also not read any nonfiction. Well, I guess I read that one graphic novel, but I'm not counting that because that's not the nonfiction in the way that I meant. I want to read a nonfiction a month, so not gonna count it, which means I'm falling deeply behind on that, and I know that I probably won't get back into that for the rest of the year. I own a lot of nonfiction that I really want to read. It's just after I'm done reading all of like my textbooks and my academic articles, I don't want to read nonfiction. So I can't imagine I'll be picking up a whole lot more nonfiction novels for the rest of the year, so like I don't want to count myself out just yet, you know? You never know what could happen, but right. So that to me just means that I need to like dedicate time and possibly a reading vlog to getting some of these challenges completed, which I probably will do because I do actively want to complete them. I just like I do not have the time or the bandwidth to do so right now. So maybe once I get over like this hump of my projects and everything, then I can get more into that. But I really need to get these books read for my class, and so you will probably hear me talking about that quite frequently on this channel, because the thing is I'm enjoying a lot of the things that I'm reading, and I really like that we kind of had like free choice in some of the things that we could read. So I will be making a whole vlog dedicated to that because again, it's taking up like 90% of my reading time right now. Speaking of, I need to go keep reading the book that I'm reading right now because it's over 500 pages. So with that, I think I've talked your ear off enough about the things that I read this month and this quarter. So let me know how your reading month, your reading quarter is going. I would love to know. I love seeing everyone's comments on my videos. Like it really just makes me so happy to like see that people are enjoying the stuff I'm posting and then like engaging with it. Like it really just, it warms my heart. You know, like it makes me so happy because I created this channel to like have a sense of community now that I'm in an online grad program. So even if you just comment like an emoji, it would mean a lot to me. So thank you so much for being here. I, again, would love to see you in the comments, and I hope you like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in another video again soon. Bye.